I'm responding to a question left on one of my YouTube channel videos where someone asked what type of law that I practice. I do not practice any law, but the last type of law I practiced was telecom, media, and telecommunications. And it reminded me that I have yet to formally introduce myself on social media to people who have followed me since I pivoted. Before I did this type of content, just quite divisive content, educating people on the lawsuits that are filed against the Trump administration after the Trump administration does something unlawful. And those the Trump administration files against other people just because it's a whack-a-mole administration. But I digress. And I said, let me, use this opportunity with this question that was asked to actually answer and give a little bit more about myself and expand. So here I am. To get to practicing media law and then to do what I'm doing now, the path is started in Sierra Leone, West Africa, where I was born. My dad immigrated to the United States to go to school to study, eventually got a job, and his job sponsored him to be, to stay in this country. And with that sponsorship, you have the opportunity to send for people back home. And my mom and I came and joined my dad. And a lot of their friends and family at the time from Sierra Leone were visa overstays. They came to visit. They just never went back. And around that time, there were rapid immigration rates similar to the ones we have here. So that's why this is not new to me. It's part of my own institutional memory. And so I've learned of these things. My parents have told me about these things. And during 1986, Ronald Reagan, in exchange for employers creating this E-Verify system, which he felt was the draw because people from other countries were coming because they knew they can get at work. These employers were exploiting these people who had the opportunity and options to go to unions or to file complaints or to, because they were Americans and they have rights, workers' rights, they could exploit immigrants that didn't have those rights. And E-Verify meant the employers were subject to random audits to make sure everyone that works for them actually is authorized to work for them. And so in exchange for that, he allowed all of the undocumented people at the time, I'm not quite sure, 5 million or whatever, so to just have a pathways to citizenship. And that's how we gained our citizenship, became naturalized. And so a lot of people got naturalized from the 80s, that time. Now, fast forward, that's why I'm a acculturated Black American. When I mean acculturated, meaning that because I went to elementary school, middle school, and high school in the United States, I have the authentic Black American experience and culture and language and everything. And though I'm not in the, traditional sense, because sometimes people will see me and assume I am a traditional African American, ask why do I care? But I care because I'm an immigrant. Family immigrant. When I went to college at the University of Maryland, College Park, where I studied journalism, a lot of my friends were international students. So when I saw at the top of this administration that it was targeting international students for their protests, something that we did when I was in college, we protested the Rodney King's riots. That's how old I am. We protested a few other things. And we protested apartheid. And actually at my university, we were successful in getting our university to divest from apartheid South Africa. So I see what the protesters are trying to do in their attempts, and has nothing to do with another nation. Why are you trying to deport people? Because they're protesting for solidarity on behalf of people that are suffering because it upsets another nation that's not the United States. Doesn't make sense to me at all. So I empathize. And so I was definitely going to be on board and supporting the rights of those people. And that's when I started actually saying, my service here will be to take people beyond the headlines and follow up. And that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been doing for a full year now. I did go to law school. I have 2 law degrees. Immediately after I went to law school, I was studying communications law, and at the time, the industry was changing. The law had changed. So it was a great time to be going to school because it was new. Everyone, even the people who've been veterans, were studying the same thing. So it was a great time. I wrote a journal. I enjoyed my experience at law school. After law school, I worked for a law firm. No, I immediately went to a clinic, got my master's degree. The clinic that I worked at, we were the ones who were called in by the Federal Communications Commission and the Federal Trade Commission when they were doing a policy, and there was only industry interests being represented. So we would represent the interests of civil rights organizations, children's organizations, consumer rights organizations, to make sure the interests of the people, because the government is supposed to serve the people, not the interests of corporations or businesses or shareholders of corporations. So that was a great experience. I did that for 2 years. I was a staff attorney. And after that, I went in-house to DC government, where I was working as the assistant general counsel at regulating the cable companies. At the time, my boss had quit right after I came in. He knew he was going to quit. He really quickly trained me, and he was off. My boss, I went to him when I was pregnant with my second child and asked, could he name me interim general counsel, since I was doing all the work, my work, and then my boss's work. And he said he did not want me to feel entitled to the job, so he was not going to give me the job. Bullshit, right? Whatever. He finally eventually hired someone, but that person's still getting their sea legs, trying to figure things out. And I'm in the middle of negotiating this really tense contract. At some point, there was a moment when my boss and I were sitting side by side with our boss's boss at this desk, and I was doing all the negotiations, the final closeout, and I knew everything about the deal, and he didn't, because he's the boss's boss. That's not his thing. So he told me, because the phone cord, or the phone conference phone that we had at the time, couldn't stretch, and so the party on the other side couldn't hear me. So my boss's boss gets up from his chair, where he's sitting right in front of the conference phone, and says, you know what, let's switch places. I'm going to take your seat and you sit in my desk. So there I was, in charge, pregnant, handling this really major deal for the entire District of Columbia, and the phone, I'm sitting at the desk, and across me are two men who are not experienced, not skilled, don't know what the hell is going on, getting more money than me. And I was like, oh, hell no. And that's when I left, started my own firm. I did that successfully for 4 years till business kind of dried up a little bit. And I took up an offer from a family member to help them serve as an escrow agent on a deal. It turns out that person, the family member, was scammed, or there was some impropriety going on. And because I lent my name to it, because I was the escrow agent on it, I got punished for it. Lost both licenses, because when you lose your license in Maryland, you also lose it in DC, because they're connected. So bar cards. At that time, I was licensed in 3 places. It was a humiliating event. I turned away from law altogether. I tried to remove that and just didn't do that, and went a whole nother venture. The only reason I crept back into law is because I saw that there was this really big need that for people to understand. And I said, you know what, let me use my fact that I have a journalism background, so I'm capable of taking down complex topics and, simplifying it, because journalists are supposed to write at, make sure their writing is at a 5th grade level. And also my legal skills and background from having 2 law degrees, practice, represented consumer organizations and the people, and having experience of writing a brief at the United States Supreme Court. I had, written a 10th Circuit Court of Appeals brief, a Third Circuit Court of Appeals brief. I had presented a paper at the National Press Club. I was on the nonprofit board for years and years and years, for an organization that looks out for the interests of broadband access. So I had all this experience of working for the people and educating. I taught as an adjunct professor at my alma mater, University of Maryland, College Park. I had also did some guest lecturing or paneling at Yale, at Penn State, at Netroots Nation. So I had experience. I'd been out there working for the people, advocating, speaking, comfortable speaking, and it was natural. And then also right up to this point, when I pivoted and left law, I was doing content creation. So that takes a skill to build, to learn how to create information, get to the point, just get right to it, and just, so all of those skills came together perfectly. The legal background, the journalism background, the background of being a content creator. And so that's where I am today. And so I am, here, happy, still in DC area, suburb DC area, living with my husband and our 3 kids. Well, one kid's in college, the other one just graduated. He's looking for full time, though he's working for a startup. And then I have a high school senior. And then my parents and my in-laws all around and well. And so life is life. And I've since going on this full time. I really enjoy educating. Like I said, I've taught before, and I love instructing and amplifying and empowering people. So that's my story. And if you like that, you can follow me, share this video. I try to go live Tuesdays and Thursdays on social media. I also produce content daily, all the time, shorts, long form content. If you'd like to support my work here, you can go to jjlegal.com/support, get my Know Your Rights cards, get my Trump tracker, purchase my merch. This is Each One Teach One. This is my model that I've adopted, or buy me a cup of coffee. I'll appreciate your support. Share this. The more we get empowered, the more we learn, the more we feel confident, the more we win.